This is the Edify Podcast for the servant.
On the show today, I have the Superman to my Batman, Paul Spurlin. Paul and I have been the dynamic duo since when? When did y'all officially move here?
May of 11?
May of...
No.
Yeah, 2000.
It seems forever. No, it really doesn't. But it does seem
It's
like
been
a
84 years.
What's going on? 2 years. I can't think. 21.
Yeah, we've endured 2 Brave seasons together.
Yeah.
You know, so that's been good.
2 not bad ones.
Yeah, not bad ones.
Ready to throw that back around. But,
Well, Georgia won back-to-back national championship.
We don't have to go there.
Yeah, but the
Alabama
Braves,
just
but
won
the Braves.
SEC championship. So.
Yeah, but nobody cares about basketball, Paul.
Well, they do, and well, anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, we've known each other a long time.
Yeah. How long have you been in ministry altogether?
We need to go there. This is 25 years.
25 years. A shade under a decade, we would say. Right. You know?
Yeah. That's
25 years. And we're currently sitting in your office that is with 2 lightsaber lamps. One's Sith, one is the Rebellion, and then there's a brand new Luke Skywalker replica floor lamp. Yeah, it's a beast.
You know, it's my space.
It is.
It gives me a chance to.
It is. It's much like my office.
Yeah, we got our own personalities in both rooms.
Absolutely. Right. People walk in there and they're like, "Oh, this is Jake."
All they know is these guys are fun. That's all that matters.
Yeah, you know, we're not prunes. No. At least not yet. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be there one day.
I'll be there before you will, but
yeah, you will. But anyway, so we make it work.
Yes,
we do.
Yes.
We kind of have some similarities.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Your dad's a Memphis grad.
Yep.
My dad went in '86, but they left because of support issues, financial support, and some
folks don't know this. They're actually pretty good friends.
Yeah.
They were good friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember as a kid being at Piedmont or at Adairsville, and your dad preached a meeting for us on the phone.
Yeah.
And the phone sat on the Lord's Supper table, and it was the horizontal preacher.
That's right.
You know, because how long did he suffer ALS?
Multiple sclerosis for about 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He died in 7 years ago.
You know.
But it didn't stop him. He kept going.
No, that's the thing. I mean, literally, he wrote the book.
Literally, he did.
Don't ever give up.
That's right.
And very, very Paul of him.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way you are. You burn the candles at all 3 ends when there's only 2 ends.
That's true.
But your hat is.
I get it, honestly.
Your hand is in a lot of hats.
Yeah.
So, obviously, here at Piedmont Road.
Yes.
Your title is Connection Minister.
It is.
But you're also Ministry League President. Mm-hmm. You're all president of the board at Exposure Youth Camp.
Yes, I am.
And so you taught at Faulkner for how long?
2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years.
Youth ministry mostly.
Yeah, you taught youth ministry.
I did.
Okay. So we are now in let me use this term, a plague.
Yeah.
A plague of youth ministry. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Was youth ministry a fad and a phase? When did it come up? What's the workings of youth ministry? Because that's the focus of this season is the different aspects of ministry and why we do what we do.
Right. I think that elderships just over the past 10, 15 years have really started to appreciate a man, a family to come in and minister to young people that does not replace a parent, but is sort of parent adjunct, is that third option if you need it,
sure,
kind of thing. And I think that elderships have noticed that when something good, you get somebody good, you want to keep them.
Okay.
And I think there was a time when the average stay of a youth minister was 18 to 24 months. That was documented.
Wow.
Yes.
Preachers is
absolutely.
like 3.2 years or something like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, definitely. But I think after a while, it's like, they go through enough transitions of guys gone and heartbreaks of kids and parents having to reshuffle how things do and getting used to that next person so frequently, it just becomes problematic. And I think what's happened is they start to realize when they look at the yearly budget, how important is this to the life of our church?
Sure.
And what's the future of this congregation?
Right.
And I think that they're getting it. I think they're finally getting it.
Do you think youth ministry fits every congregation?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so not every congregation needs youth ministers.
Yeah, no. I don't
I mean, obviously there's some churches that don't have youth.
Right.
That's and they're
those are the ones that don't need one.
okay. So,
but
so Paul wrote to Timothy, not this Paul, but
Yeah.
but the inspired penman
yeah,
in 1 Timothy 4. He tells him to let no one despise your youth, verse 12, but set the believers an example in speech and conduct and love and faith and purity. Okay. So you mentioned a while ago hiring a person, and you used the term man. I see some churches that they go out and they hire a youth minister right out of college. And in some ways it's babies watching babies.
true.
Because of how they do youth ministry. Some people turn it into a babysitting thing.
Yeah,
And what does this guy how is he going to entertain our kids? Is that conducive to church growth?
no. It's from what you said about the entertain the kids part.
Okay.
Because just in my view, it's not about the entertainment of keeping them satisfied.
Sure.
Well, no, satisfied is even the wrong word too. Keeping them occupied.
Okay.
There's a difference in keeping someone occupied and keeping them satisfied.
Sure.
And so occupied just means you put them in a room and hang out and, Six Flags, Disney World, things like that. But
Nerf wars.
yeah, Nerf wars, which all these are not bad things, but alone,
I like Nerf wars.
Alone, they're bad things. You gotta add. I've been a part of them too. I had my wounds, but you gotta have some consistency with it. You gotta make sure that it's Christ driven. It's like every other ministry of the church. If the Bible isn't at the heartbeat of what you're doing, then you're doing it wrong.
Okay. So when Paul wrote to Timothy, Paul was roughly in his 60s. Timothy's in his 30s, we think. Roughly.
Yeah.
Do you think it is more wise to hire a man with children who goes right into the youth group, or somebody right out of college? Or is it, because I've seen it the case where somebody would say, no, we're not going to hire a young man, we're going to hire an old man. Well, I've seen some great older youth ministers. Jerry Elder,
Yep.
legend. Ronnie
Sure.
West down in South Georgia. Ronnie didn't even get into ministry until
Later.
after he retired.
That's right.
He was running around employing hospitals for doctors, but
He has that personality.
he
though.
does.
That's a big part
So
of it.
it kind of goes back to what I was saying. I've met young preachers who had no business preaching. And I've met old
unfortunate.
preachers who had no business
Right.
preaching. And so an age isn't necessarily the
I don't think it's about age at all.
yeah, it's really about, is the person an example in all of these different kinds of ways? Can we trust him?
Yeah.
Can we trust him? And if he's married, if he's not married, if he has kids, if he doesn't have kids.
Also, some guys have a desire to be a minister. Well, I shouldn't say it that way, because we're all ministers on some level.
Sure.
But I think some guys have a desire to preach or to be a youth minister or even a connections minister. Having a desire is great, but if you do not have the personality to deal and to help people and to want to be there for them and to, you have to be built in the right way. And we're not everybody's built that way.
Absolutely not.
In a ministry, occupationally speaking, ministry is not for everybody.
No.
It's not for the faint of heart. I have to tell you that.
Yeah.
We both had bumps in the road on things we've had to do with the ministry. Who hasn't?
Sure.
But some people they bounce back well, and some people don't. Some people communicate really well, and some don't. And so
It's kind of like preachers that don't know how to minister. They only minister through the pulpit,
Yeah.
but outside of the pulpit, they're not
Yeah.
they're not your people.
either you can preach or you can teach.
Right.
You know.
Well, and two, like they're the kind that you're going to invite to a ball game, or they're not.
Right.
And the ones that last, the ones that make it, are the ones who can go to the ball games and preach.
Yeah.
My daddy said, brethren will put up with a B preacher as long as he's an A minister, or
That's
even
a
a
good
C
point.
preacher, as long as he's somebody that they know that he cares, they know that he's for them, they know that he's working for them. So we're talking about youth ministry. You're in connections here, and that's why our elders have said, this is what we want.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of want somebody who is a liaison to a few deacons and their works, and somebody who is who ties the pulpit and the pew together. Not just that, but also the pew to our community.
Right.
So walk me through what Connections Ministry looks like for you. I know you're over education too, but through Connections, what does that look like for you on a regular basis, and why is that needful?
I started even before I came here within the role of Connections Ministry to connect members to one another, to get together and working side by side, but also in becoming a piece of the community where they live. But also, there's 3 C's to it. You have the connections with the church, the connections with the Christian, but also the connection with the community and through Christ. And so you want all these together to work together. And that's where in coming here, of course, I came here, like you said, in 21 May, and we about a year ago, we initiated. It was exactly a year later. Initiated the Connections program.
Sure.
So that was the whole plan. We did this. We've created this Acts approach, Acts formula, that comes straight from Acts 1:8.
It's Bible, brethren.
It is, and it's not a new thing. It's not a new formula. Jesus and his apostles used it. It worked pretty well for them. Let's go. So it all starts, and it just starts from the very beginning. Acts 1:8, with your home, your community, where you are at your church. And then it spreads out to your friends and family, and we've done that. And then it goes to the outermost area of the world, and that's part of that. That's all there in verse 8. And you got Judea, you got Samaria, you got Jerusalem, you got all these things that they're stages of talking to people and reaching out to people. The key is staying on board with those stages.
Yeah.
I'm not a big algebra guy, but
Negative.
I do know if you start from the beginning and hit all the problems, you're gonna figure it out most of the time. You're gonna figure it out to the end, but you've got to stick with the stages and follow them. You can't skip a place.
Every time you say to the end, it takes me back to Rocky IV when Drago is there, and Drago they've beat each other. They look like bruised plums, and Drago says to the end.
Oh yeah.
But you mentioned something. 2 things you said. One, you said algebra, and I gagged a little. I quit math in 8th grade. Yeah. I just did. And then the second thing that you mentioned...
We do have a lot in common.
I know. The other thing that you mentioned was Acts 1 and verse 8. Let me read this. He says, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you. And his people there, this is right here at the Ascension. This is when he's fixing to leave. Mm-hmm. And he says, he's talking to those folks there in that upper room, and he breathes on them, and he says, receive the Holy Spirit. And he says, stay in Jerusalem until you receive power from on high. And he says that he will come upon you. You will be my witnesses in phase 1 that we started a year ago is Jerusalem. That's our innermost. That's the church. Okay.
That's here. Yeah.
Years ago I had this theme, running in ministry that when people ask me, Jake, what's your plan as a preacher? Well, you restore. Let's see. It's done left my mind now. Restore the erring, reach the lost. Let's see. You strengthen the saved, number 1. You restore the erring, number 2, and then you reach the lost. And I went in that order, which is the same thing, Acts 1:8.
Yeah, that's right.
You strengthen the saved, because what are you bringing people into as a church if the church is all kind of discombobulated, or the church doesn't have a warm personality for visitors?
Yeah.
If they're not in love with Jesus, don't think you're going to bring people into this house.
That's the importance of that first part.
Right. So the Jerusalem, we got to take care of Jerusalem, and the disciples took way too long in Jerusalem, and it took the death of Stephen to get them off their humps.
Well, it's about being able to recommend your church,
Sure.
but being able to reference it as well.
Sure.
Because it's something to be proud of.
Sure.
You know, Paul talked about, he mentioned in text, he used the phrase, my gospel.
Yeah.
Paul didn't write the whole thing. He sure wrote a bunch of it, but he didn't write it all. It wasn't his, but he took possession of it because the Lord allowed it. It is our gospel.
Right.
It is our church.
Right.
And people are scared to say that, but I'm sorry. We see the pattern of we can do that. Make it yours and let folks know. We want them to be part of that same opportunity to be a part of it, something special.
So when he said my gospel, what he meant is the good news that I have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in my possession.
Yeah, that's in my possession. So, and I hear some folks say, "Well, it ain't your church; it's the Lord's church." I know. Yes, that's true.
You killed me.
That's true. Well,
yeah, no, I get it. I follow it completely. I know what you're saying. I'm sorry.
But it's true. It's ours in a sense that we've been given stewardship of our roles and our works in ministry. So, the first phase is Jerusalem. And the way that we connect first and foremost is with the congregation. We're connecting with the Lord. We're connecting with our congregation, our Jerusalem.
Right.
Second phase. When did we hit second phase? Roughly around
3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the Judea. This is the just outside of our reach. The connection groups we revamped. Something that I think Lance Levins did. Almost maybe a decade ago with the life groups or color groups or home groups, whatever they were. But we had 5 groups based upon location. Now we've whittled it down to 4, red, yellow, green, and blue. And that's one of the things that does is that allows, because we're in such a transient metro Atlanta area, that allows people in the blue group to take care of the folks in the blue group, green group, so on.
Right.
Because if you're in yellow group in the northwest corner of our sectors, you're going to have an hour and 20-minute drive to get to the person who's in the farthest blue group. And so ministry's hard. People fall through the cracks.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
we separate it that way. And so that's our Judea. We not only have that, but we're looking to shift to the Judea of...
As much as the Jerusalem was home,
Sure.
Judea is also friends and family.
Right. We had Friends and Family Day at the end of January.
So it fell perfectly. It went the whole thing, it was just...
Yeah, we had 355 in attendance for Friends and Family Day, which is huge. And here's what's nuts is we are, numbers-wise, we are higher than we were pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Which is great.
For sure.
And we still having the 20 to 30 visitors weekly.
We're blessed.
But I think our numbers was 263 last week.
Yeah.
So what that means is there are people who see, and a person made this compliment of the church here at Piedmont Road the other day. They said that Piedmont Road was a going church for a coming Lord. And I thought, boy, that's cool. Good stuff. That's good stuff. I want it to always be that way.
Yeah. A
going church for a coming Lord. And so the Jerusalem is we're taking care of here. The Judea is our community. And then this Samaria and to the end of the earth. Obviously, Ministry League is doing Scotland. They're doing London. They're doing different parts all over. But if we don't take care of here first, we're going to run out of soap.
It's all about home.
And you see some churches. I know some churches. They've got 17 members, and they're still sending the amount of money that they've always been sending to Asia or to India.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're running out of soap at home, and they're a generation away from closing their doors. It's sad. Where some churches may be focused on Samaria, and they're only focused on Samaria. Well, just get up and move and go to Samaria. But I'm not against mission work in any kind of way, but you see some folks, they're so focused on Samaria they forget Jerusalem, and they forget Jerusalem and they forget youth ministry, they forget family ministry, they forget those kind of things.
And I think you kind of hit on something right there. As we talk about youth ministry, I hope everybody understands, especially here, any good youth ministry is a family ministry. You have to keep the parents involved, and you can't, especially here, we can't, or nor should we feel like we can run a youth program without the full commitment of our parents. Number one, from home, the things they talk about at home, the fact the Bible needs to be open at home.
Yeah.
First, and then here, needing them to facilitate things. You can't expect one couple, one family to do it all. It's just, you just can't do it.
Yeah, no, you can't. And you can hire the best youth minister, but it's not going to be as effective as if you don't have families that are involved.
Yeah.
This has got to be a guy who is contagious to be around, somebody who is able to say, hey, this is the best thing since sliced bread,
Yeah.
and this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're about, and here's where we're going.
He easily connects with people. And earlier you asked about hiring a man to do that. I did say that, but then I quickly said family.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean I don't think that a single guy couldn't do youth ministry. I think depending on how he's built, how he was educated, maybe if he had internships, how those worked with people. And if I'm an elder, obviously I'm going to ask, do you have any prospects? Are you dating someone? Is something coming down the pike?
Right.
Because you're going to be dealing with our young people and our families and our parents. And so in looking at somebody, like you said, especially straight out of college, in some cases you'd say, well, you're straight out of college, you're not dating anybody. So
right.
you want that to be something that can distract on some level so that they know that there's no way other crazy stuff could happen. Unfortunately, we live in that kind of world. But there are some good guys that are single and doing youth ministry, and there's guys with families. And one guy once told me, he says, you can't really be a good youth minister until you have your own teenagers. And until I had a teenager, I never believed that. But now it's like it's like all of a sudden you're right. Yeah. I mean, it's different.
There's something to it.
Lainey is 15 years old. She is all teenager.
Yeah,
I'm learning that. But yeah, it does help dealing with other people, especially when you deal with young people in churches and youth ministry for as long as I have. And so there's a message I want to send to guys that are wanting to do that. And that is, if you have any ounce of laziness in you at all, please leave ministry now.
Sure.
Because the church doesn't have time for someone who isn't going to give their full love. I don't expect you to go crazy and do things like some of us do. Right. But dedicate what it means to do this and make an impact. If you're not making an impact, we got to find somewhere else to be able to do that.
Sure. It's like, we ate with a couple, you and I did Sunday.
Yeah.
And he's a preacher's kid.
Oh, yeah.
And he brought up the fact that his dad was made to do everything and treated horribly at one particular place.
Yeah.
And that steered him away from ministry or preaching as it is. And I made the comment that thankfully I'm at a place where they want me to preach.
That's right.
Well, we have you, we have Chuck, we have Spencer, we have different folks, different shoes, different lanes. And I made the point that my job is preaching. If youth ministry is your work, if preaching is your work, if Chuck with our GSOP, whatever you have, whatever your hand is, whatever plow you are, if I don't deliver every week and I only have one job, that's a failure on my part. Luke 16:10, he who has been given little. Well, let me just read the exact verse. Luke 16:10. One who is faithful in very little is also faithful in much. One who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. Thankfully, isn't it? It
is.
That goes along with people's financial stewardship. Oh, if I had $1 million, I'd give it all to the Lord. Well, you got 10. What are you giving to the Lord out of the 10?
That's right.
Well, nothing. It's only 10. $1 million don't go like it used to.
That's true.
Anyway,
I wouldn't know, but
me either.
I don't think it would.
Me either.
It's just part of it, I guess.
It is. But
on that, you're talking about different guys in ministry and stuff. If a person is listening to this and they're an elder or even a preacher, communicate to each other. Raise everybody up from the pulpit. Brag on your preacher. Appreciate him publicly. Speak highly of your elders. I know that Jake and I, and Chuck too, when we were in that pulpit, that happens a lot. We brag on our church. We brag on our elders.
And different works.
Our deacons, but please let everybody know, everybody's on the same page. You love each other. You're going to encourage everything that's going on. It really helps to keep that morale high, regardless of what's going on. I know we kind of left the COVID era but I know that that's still a virus. But it just seems like we're back at a point where it's just cheerlead for everybody.
Yeah.
Make it awesome.
Yeah, we had a preachers meeting Monday here. Cliff Goodwin spoke, and the guys that were downstairs. We talked about COVID for just a second because of people were talking about different works, different things they're involved with now and it's different now than it was before. And I made the comment. I said I told the elders here at Piedmont Road when this was happening. I said we're not going to lose the church. We're going to lose the fat. Mm-hmm. That's the dead weight is going to fall off.
Yeah.
And it did. And I said it's going to show us who we really are and what we're really about. I think natural disasters are great in that they teach us a lot. They show us a lot. Mm-hmm. So when we realize that we're in a plague at a congregation, or you're somewhere and you see that there's a problem or something that needs to be done, sometimes you're the guy for this. Sometimes you're not the guy for this. Mm-hmm. And you got to be okay with saying, I'm not the guy for this. Mm-hmm. That 2 Timothy 2:2, mm-hmm. You got to learn how to delegate. Find faithful people that can do a good job and do it. Romans 12:6-8, all of us have differing gifts, according to the grace given to each of us, and the different gifts that they had, some of it's prophesying, some of it's faith, it's serving. Whatever it is, if it's encouragement, then give encouragement. If it's giving, give generously. It's to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. All of us have different gifts, and all of us have different not gifts. Mm-hmm. Different roles that we don't feel, and
we're not plurality,
right? And you need that plurality.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening to this and you're a preacher and you don't have 6 men on staff, you can find a couple of guys there and a couple of women there, to help out. Because, don't just think that we're sexist and say only men can be youth ministers in that kind of role, because there's a need to have females there. There's a need to have females. When we think about, well, women can't preach in a mixed assembly. That's true. That's true. Or excuse me, a mixed Christian assembly. That's absolutely true. But that does not mean that women can't serve in different roles, and especially when it comes to our youth. There's some girls who something happens to them, and they don't want to talk to a male. Mm-hmm. They don't want to talk to a male. And if there's not a good, sound female that they love and trust, who's somewhere near her, or maybe it's a lady that has been through something that she's been through, she don't want to talk to that person, or she's going to have a harder time opening up.
Well, and going with that, you mentioned 2 Timothy 2:2, verse 3. I love the sharing in the suffering. It's like we do this together. We're gonna this ship. I'm an old Navy guy, but this ship is it'll stay up or go down together. Either way, we're together. Either way. but just know that you are together, and to share in the awesome times that you have, but also share in the bad times and pray about it and strengthen each other. That's the only way to do it. Ecclesiastes 4:9.
Yeah, that transparency. That vulnerable nature that we're supposed to have as the church. Why youth ministry? Why focus on the youth? You brought up something a while ago. If the home isn't taken care of, if families aren't taken care of, if they're not doing what they need to do at home, then youth ministry will lack. So will preaching. So preaching will lack. You're not. The eldership is not going to get the quality of fruit that could be produced,
right,
if a home isn't taken care of. With that being said, sometimes the only Bible that these kids are going to get is in our presence, is with us. And, that's why it's healthy for some people. I mean, it's like, if you look at certain high school football teams, I'm familiar with a few programs that they take 160 kids a year. And this is no lie. They feed them 3 meals a day. They come together. Even in summertime, they bring them together. They pile up the bus. They'll be together. And some of those kids, that's the only family that they have. That's the only stability and consistency that they have. So it's huge for people to be involved with their kids. The church needs to be involved with their kids. So we're also we're not here to entertain kids or occupy them, whatever we mentioned earlier, but we're here to saturate them with Scripture. Why do we want to be about youth ministry? If you could put it in 3 or 4 different lines, We want to saturate them for Scripture. What's that going to do for their life personally?
We want to build a foundation for them so that when they leave here, that they won't leave the first love.
Sure.
To quote Scripture. We want them to understand what the ramifications are of leaving Jesus, of leaving the church completely. They leave here, and we're working on it here. We're working on it big time here, but there's a lot of congregations that once a kid graduates high school, they have nothing for them until they're 30 years old.
Sure.
I mean, there's nothing for them.
Sure.
And so we're lucky. We got colleges close by, so there's an attention to that.
Right.
And I appreciate our guys for thinking about that. But it's about building a spiritual foundation so they can stand on their own 2 feet. I mean, our teenagers, if you just think on the public school realm of things, our teenagers have an opportunity to hit a mission field that adults will never have a chance to.
Sure.
And they can contact more people than adults ever would.
Kids should be more
On the
evangelists than
daily.
anybody.
Yeah. So yeah, we need to empower them so when they go places, they can share stuff.
Sure. They often say that a child is set by six.
Oh yeah.
That who they are, their personalities, their traits, their behaviors, etc. Their whatever set by six. Thankfully, even here, our work begins before a child ever sees life. Thankfully, we're a praying congregation, and we pray for our families. We pray for these pregnancies and the children. Mm-hmm. But we put an emphasis even on the smallest of child here. Mm-hmm. We have from cradle to 5th grade, we have a deacon and his wife and their family that's just over that age. Mm-hmm. We have a deacon over 6th through 12th grade. Split that up. Don't give it just to one guy. But we might be so keen on the preaching or so keen on the youth ministry that we forget about the young ones, or we forget about the college age. Right. The time where people leave the faith. And so youth ministry isn't. I mean, it's not just defined by 6th through 12th grade, but one of the things that I personally think that youth ministry does, like you said, it does set them up for a foundation when they leave here. They're not leaving the Lord.
Well, you want them to have the spiritual, but you also want them to have the social.
Yeah.
You want them to know how to interact with people. So
right.
There's 2 sides to it.
Right.
It's not all one or the other. There's got to be a balanced attack.
Sure. And you see some parents that keep their children in a bubble. They keep them in a bubble for the sake of their soul. And I appreciate that. I understand that. But at some point, it's too much.
Once you let them go.
Right. Well, I saw it at Faulkner. When I was at Faulkner, there were some kids who come right out of homeschool. And this isn't a knock to homeschool. They come right out of homeschool and sheltered environment that left them shell-shocked when they actually got into the world. Even though they go to a Christian college, there's dirt under the fingernails of a Christian college like there is elsewhere. And that's everywhere because that's just life.
That's right.
Our kids are going to be exposed. We do them harm when we keep them sheltered for so long or too long. Yeah. And, some places, when I was in Montgomery, I student taught in Montgomery. Mm-hmm. I don't personally know a public school that I would want my child to go to. That's the truth. So what am I going to do? Homeschool, private school? Those are just those are the options that you're left with. Yeah. So like I said, nothing's a knock to homeschool. But when we keep our children away from other people, we isolate them. Yeah. That's only going to hurt them. And we have to help our children connect to our community.
There's certain experiences kids need.
Sure.
And if they don't get them growing up,
sure,
they're not going to know how to deal with it.
Right.
Once they're expected to.
Sure.
And so it's.
And too, you need to get out there and learn how not to do life.
That's right. Yeah.
From an early age, when the ramifications aren't as bad. You see some folks, they get out and they've been sheltered their whole life, and they get out and they make a bad decision in a bad place where they shouldn't make it, and it's so much more. It's so much worse. Mm-hmm. It's like chickenpox is worse when you're older than when you're younger. We're more quote resilient at that age.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm not saying subject your children to horrible things in life, but they have to see reality. Yeah, they do.
How do I deal with some trouble if I've never seen it or never been subjected to it? And then when you're by yourself on the island, it's like, what do I do now?
Yeah. Well, it's unrealistic. It's unrealistic.
And as parents, on the other side of that, I mean, they want to protect their kids.
Sure.
They don't want them to fall. And what happens when a mother's child falls and scrapes their knee? She's going to clean that knee up.
Yep, rush
she's
to
going to
them.
clean it. She's going to kiss it. She's going to cover it up with something.
Right.
And she's like, "What can I do to fix this for you?" And sometimes, it's just. I get it.
Yeah. So Stone is he'll be 7 next week, and he'll hurt himself and he'll do something, and it's just a minor scrape or whatever, and he'll go, "Oh." I'm like, "You're all right, buddy. Rub some dirt on it." He was like, "Why don't you care? Why don't you care?"
Because I'm a dude.
I'm like, "Grow up."
Yeah.
You're going to get punched in the mouth, buddy.
Moms and dads treat things differently. That is for sure.
Yeah.
That's why you got. That's why
He was
you
like,
got
"Why don't you care?"
That's funny.
Anyway, but so we're setting these kids up for a foundation. We're setting them up for reality and realism. We're helping them understand and relate to their Bible, that they know that this isn't just some book that is, do's and don'ts, but something that will give them life skills.
Yeah, just as you mentioned about the football team that eats 3 meals a day and goes places, and we know because we both played. You get up on a bus, you go somewhere for a week before season starts. They break you, they build you back up again, kind of thing. The same is true with youth groups. They need their time. They need to get away, put them on a bus, take them somewhere, learn some good Bible, spend some time together, learn about each other. And so you can be there for one another and then bring them back and say, look what we've done. Look what we've accomplished.
And all this is the good stuff.
Good to that.
Let's shift the gears to the discouragement of youth ministry. When the kids don't receive the Bible that you're trying to give out, what does that look like for folks? Or how does that make you feel?
Well, then you're sort of talking about the fringe kids. You got someone sort of on the bubble on the outside, and then it goes back to the home. Is coming to church, attending a Sunday morning service, is that enough to get them entrenched in what's going on?
Goodness, no.
And it's not.
No.
It's not. There's Bible class for a reason.
Right.
We have it. Thank you.
Right.
We have it. So it gives you a chance to interact more. I can't stand up and ask questions about, you're in the middle of a sermon. You're kind of busy doing your thing. But in Bible class, it gives you a chance to do that. We need to give them every opportunity to do that. And if we don't, then it stifles it. And the question is, what do I do when they're stifled?
Sure.
It's tough.
Sure.
That's the cracks are, inner cracks, inner kid. What do you do?
And you've seen some youth groups that were disoriented, that were discombobulated, there was dysfunction amongst them. That there was one or two who stirred the pot always.
Oh, man.
A good resource that I picked up years ago that you know very well, Lunch Ladies, the book.
Oh, yeah.
Philip Jenkins' book.
For sure.
And what he talked about when he was at Mount Juliet, he has, I think doesn't he say it's like his first day? He goes in to teach his first teen class, youth ministry class, and that just happened to be the same day that a missionary was there to talk about a mission trip. And the bulk of the kids going on the mission trip, the usual kids.
And there were 6 left in the room.
Right, and those were the fringe kids.
Yeah.
The isolated, the not so popular kids.
And he had this whole lesson ready.
And so from that group, he creates this Lunch Lady group that nobody else knew about.
Right.
And that was stirring to me. I wasn't able to do that where I was at the time with kids because I probably only had 6 or 7 kids. But I did that with the men, or I would do that with certain people that I thought could be good leaders. Pull them aside and do things with them.
But there's something to that too. You mentioned part of this very same thing is having that lesson ready. When you walk into a room that seats 30 and you see 3, and you kind of like, I want everybody to hear this. I'm going to shelf that, and I'm just going to come up with something off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
If you prepared something, make that matter to those people. Minister to those that are there to minister to. Sure. That's a big thing to learn too, especially for a guy in any realm of teaching, really.
Sure. Well, I think about there have been, I've heard of folks that get discouraged when the number of folks for worship is low.
Yeah.
And it's down, and the focus on those people that are gone robs you of the focus of the people that are there.
Right.
And so that can happen when it comes to youth ministry. You plan an event. I remember the first event that I planned, I was at Collierville when I was in preaching school. Nobody showed up. Nobody. And I remember one kid telling me this. He said, I was teaching the teen class, and I was there working alongside Chad Azell before he went on to Jackson. And this teenager in this class. He told me during the middle of class, I could tell he wasn't there. He wasn't. He was there, but he wasn't there. And he looked up at me and he said, "No offense," he said, "but you're not going to be here in a year and a half. So, this is really trying to build a relationship isn't going to work." And I thought, I hate that for him. Because it was true. It was true, but it was like. He needed something more stay and steady in his life, and had a great family, great guy, great sister, whatever. But he just needed something spiritually that was there for a consistency for him, instead of seeing people in and out, in and out, in and out.
And that's tough especially in that situation. I know that congregation. I've been in that building, so I get they know how that works.
Sure,
the school's so close by.
Sure,
year and a half. We'll see you later. That goes right back to the whole thing of if you want to have somebody build those relationships, find somebody and keep them.
Yeah.
And take care of them.
Sure. Well, it's like, there's some churches that are transient churches where, like, they're at Collierville. You had folks that worked for FedEx there in Memphis that lived in Collierville.
That's true.
It's like that with military bases, military churches. Every 4 years, you're getting a shuffle of new folks, know. And it's hard for us to build a consistency, and it maybe we're part of a congregation where there can't be that consistency. But what are we doing? Well, we're slinging seeds. You're helping people in transition. You're ministering to people who they're nothing but unstableness in their life. And you're having to help them and fill those voids.
Yeah.
I want to talk about something else. Shift the gears out of discouragement. One of the things that can keep gracious. I went to a youth rally, okay? And this guy got up as a youth rally, and he looked like he was preaching on a brotherhood lectureship in 1981, okay? And he preached to those kids like it was a brotherhood lectureship in 1981 in his King James and these and thous, and his meat that he had there was too tough for those kids to chew. Yeah. And I thought, I wanted to turn my ears off. And I know that those kids were. Not knocking the King James or the these and the thous. Right. But if we don't help relate Jesus to people, then, and especially to teenagers, the devil is very relatable. And there's other people in this world that are highly relatable to these kids. And they will be yes men for these kids. How do we do things in a way to help it be relatable? We don't sacrifice Scripture for the sake of service or whatever, but how do we make it relatable for them?
I mean, you're going to have to change the culture of a lot of congregations, I think.
Sure.
Within the Bible Belt. Sorry, it just is what it is.
Sure. Well, I think number one, you got to be that example.
Yeah.
You got to be what it is you're trying to convey to those kids.
Right.
And if you're a bump on a log, you're not going to do well with kids.
No,
you're not the guy for the job, so move on.
You got to meet them where they are. I'm not saying tear out your knees and your jeans. I'm not saying that. But you got to meet them where they are and see what they're going to listen to, what they're going to appreciate. And I just don't know that three-piece suit tie is going to really connect.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. And a lot of these folks, especially in some locations, some areas, they don't have a lot. So that they come to church wearing jeans and a T-shirt, appreciate they're there in jeans and a T-shirt. You know, and I'm not saying everybody in the church needs to dress that way. I'm just saying, please don't disparage someone for not looking like you look, or dealing with people like the way you want to deal with people. It just stinks when you have an event. I've been to those events. I've been to those Saturday youth rallies where it's like we've got 5 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours with these kids. We're going to give them all they need to get. Yeah. Well, we're not punishing them.
Put their mouth to a fire hydrant.
Make it something that where when they leave, they want more.
Yeah. I saw this quote. It said, if kids don't understand what you're saying to them, you're not communicating the message you meant to. The target audience of every message needs to be the focus on Jesus through the years of kids. And even with kids who are least familiar with the Bible. You may not need to do this every occasion, but it's absolutely worth acknowledging that the Bible and Christianity is full of words that these kids don't encounter anywhere else. And if you have to spend as much time explaining Old English as you do explaining the gospel, it might be time to put down a certain version.
That's true.
So, it is crucial that we understand. We need to understand our audience.
Yeah.
Meet them where they are.
I think there's also a whole separate podcast on connecting with teenagers.
Sure.
That probably could be had.
Sure.
And some of these, real quick here, I mean, you need to, if you're wanting, especially if you're teaching Bible class, let's say you're teaching a quarter class and you want the teenagers to connect, or you're a new youth minister, youth and family guy working with young people, find a way to engage them in the class, in the hour you're together. You know, sing a few songs, get a couple of guys, lead those songs, let them lead a prayer or two. If you're doing PowerPoint, sometimes I'll do PowerPoint for class. Sometimes I'll get some of the kids, guys or girls, to help put that together.
Right.
You know, help me with this, be a part of this, and you know, we're going to start an Instagram account. I want the kids to help with that. You know, monitor it.
Sure.
But bring them into that. There's easy ways, especially today.
Oh yeah.
To really engage them in something, and then when they see a production of what they were a part of,
sure,
it makes it so easy.
Sure.
For them to come in and be a part of it.
Yeah.
It can be done.
Sure.
So,
you know, there's a girl. Preston Silcox is a good friend of mine. He's one of those guys, preachers, who's outside of the box guy. He's a church plant kind of guy. His daughter Curry, she's at Freed. She's going. I think she just got engaged. Curry is. She was TikTok famous, viral, for her little biblical excerpts, and so she would ask a question, and then she would teach that question or whatever. And it's insane the amount of millions of followers that she has. Our kids can be the most evangelistic that we have. So as we wrap this up, thinking about youth and family ministry, connections ministry, what we're in the business of doing is turning people to look to Jesus and look like Jesus.
Yeah.
And so that's what our children need to understand. We don't need to stand up there and be disoriented or discombobulated or worried about Six Flags and all this sort of stuff and entertaining kids. The main purpose and focus for our children to understand, we want to look to Jesus and look like Jesus in everything that we do. And there's a lot of ways we can help them understand that. But as we wrap it up, is there anything else that you can think of?
It comes down to one thing, and that is relationships.
Sure.
And it doesn't matter what part of ministry you're doing, but especially if you're dealing with like young people, ask them what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
I mean, get involved.
Yeah.
Don't be pushy.
Yeah.
But find out what they care about, so you can care about it too. I want to care about what you care about, but I need to know what that is. And you can't get there if you don't ask.
Yeah, the times that I teach the teen class, I'll go in there with my tire jacket off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll just pull up a chair and sit down in front of them and say, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
Let's
just talk.
Yeah, and I might spend 15 to 20 minutes asking them about their track meet, asking them about what they got going on, and they don't, and because they're going to get when I get up and preach, they're going to get plenty of stuff to chew on.
Right.
And so I take that opportunity to just get to know them, you know.
But when you're in that room and you're teaching,
Yeah.
those are the 45 minutes all week you get with them.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
So make it matter. When you're sharing scripture, don't just read the scripture. Let it come alive. Talk about what's going on. Tell them what's going on around you. Don't just do flashcard deals. Well, what this. I mean, the relationship also goes to the pages of the Bible. Yeah. Let's look and see exactly why did God do this? Why did He use this person?
Right.
Allow it to come alive. Lonnie Jones, one of the guys, does probably one of the best jobs of that I've ever heard. And every time I analyze how he does it, what he does, know what you're talking about before you walk in there. Be prepared.
Yeah.
And then just share it and let them feel like they're there.
Yeah, if I'm a Bible class teacher in a youth group room or whatever I'm teaching, I'm not waiting until Saturday. And if in fact I don't know these basic Bible stories, then I need to work on my own discipleship.
No kidding.
For sure. I need to come to my education guy and say, "Hey, I don't even know what I'm doing."
I'm there for you, buddy.
Yeah.
We're there for each other.
Yeah. Well,
oh man.
Well, I appreciate you putting in your words today and your thoughts, and I think
appreciate you having me.
Yeah, well, this the focus this year's ministry or this season and really some practical stuff. But so if you have any questions or concerns, Paul is your youth guy. If you want to email him, paul@lifeinchrist.com, and you find him on Facebook. Our website's lifeinchrist.com. Before we go, we brought up Ministry League a while ago. A lot of folks know, thousands of people know about Exposure.
Yeah.
This is now the second year of Ministry League experience that we're doing in state.
Right.
This is an event that's here at Piedmont Road.
Correct.
May 5th, 6th, 7th this year. Okay. 3 days. It starts Friday evening, Saturday, with a Braves game at the end of Saturday, right? Against the Orioles.
Yeah.
And then the 7th. And so we got a list of guys like Tucker Wallace, who is with Homemade. You know, he was with GBN, Authentic Christian, forever. We got Hardison Moles, Dale and Jeff Jenkins. You know, Jerry Elder's going to be here. We mentioned him earlier. J-Po, the J-Po is going to be here, John Podine, and all of his righteousness and Seacrestness.
Singing and teaching the class.
Oh, look at there, double duty.
That's right.
What a guy.
That's right. One thing, too, that's not on here that we need to really emphasize, especially for local congregations, or even if you're not, we're going to have teachers in our classrooms downstairs teaching our young kids. So it really doesn't matter what age you are.
Yeah.
This is for everybody.
Yeah,
but
this is for a whole church.
if you're wanting to revamp your education program, or you want to look at what happens with the rotation model of how we do things,
Sure.
you're going to see it in live in action, and your kids can be a part of it.
Yeah, you know, we talked about this the other day. We had some preachers downstairs Monday, and one of the guys, he was looking at the room and the classroom setup, and he was like, "You know, this is next level." And I was like, yeah, it's a little different. You know, growing up at Bible class, and I mentioned this, I had a pale blue cinder block wall. You had a puke green cinder block wall, and we had our Bibles.
Felt like prison.
Our Bibles with I had the Bill E. Smith yellow books. You know, of course,
Gospel treasure.
Whole lot of meat. But that was my Bible class.
Green. Yeah.
You know, and I will say this: it prepared me biblically. Relationship wise, not so much.
Right.
But it gave me a biblical foundation.
Sure.
But relationship stuff, no.
Yeah.
I'd have all kinds of teachers, and you know, some teachers were great, and some were
Just walking an adult in the room.
I had one teacher come in and tell me we were in eighth grade maybe. He come in talking about the negative effects of Viagra.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
I'm scared to even say anything now.
Right? Know your audience.
Yeah.
Know your audience.
So, if you would like to see how this works.
Sure. To see how to do it, not how not to do it.
Yeah, we'd love for you to come. But there's two things to that. One, if you have small children, please don't stop. I mean, come.
Oh, yeah.
And let them be a part of it. It's all day. It's like Saturday's 9 to 3. So we have something for everybody all day long.
Yeah, we had a good turnout last year.
Yeah, we did.
Had a good turnout last year.
And we're doing housing, like you said, Braves game, everything else.
Yep.
We just really need them to register online. You can come for nothing.
Sure.
If you don't want a T-shirt, you don't want to go to the game, that's no big deal. It doesn't cost anything, but we still need you to register so we can have the food ready that Saturday and,
that's right.
and things like that.
Yeah, because we like to eat. We like to eat plenty.
We do, and we'll house you if you're coming from far away.
Yeah. Don't worry about that. We got plenty of.
Yeah.
We have 146 households.
Mm-hmm. That's about right.
Probably half of those would say, "Yeah, come on, we got a spot in the floor for you." Yeah, and but anyway,
be good. Speaking of ministry.
Well, appreciate you, Paul. Love you.
Too.
Thankful that we're here.
Me too.
And
so blessed.
Yeah, we are, and we're a part of a well-oiled machine. But we hope that all of y'all listening will really think about youth ministry and how to best serve and how not to best serve, and talk about Viagra to your 8th graders. You know.
Can't believe you're keeping that on the
Right? Anyway, I'm over it. As together we stand, and as we sing.
There we go.